I have been married to my wife, Ashley, for 7 years. I'm the only one that works. Ashley spends her time volunteering at a charity she started. I'm fine with this as I make enough for both of us. In financial decisions, we have equal say. Ashley's sister and her family are going through a lot of financial issues at the moment. My brother-in-law lost his job and my sister-in-law is reaching out to my wife for help. They're asking for us to cover their monthly expenses. I said no. While we have some discretionary money, we don't have that much. Both my wife and I get fun money to spend however we wish each month. I told my wife that I would match whatever amount of her fun money she wants to give her sister from my fun money. My wife doesn't want to do that. She says that won't be enough money. She wants us to reduce the amount we're saving each month to help her sister. I refused. I do not want to jeopardize my family's future for her sister's present. I found out last week that my wife gave her sister money out of our general savings account. I was furious. To me, this is a complete betrayal of trust. I confronted her and her reply was that I forced her to go behind my back by being unreasonable. I was angry. I ended up going to the bank and opening up new accounts in my name only. I moved the balances to my new accounts. I left in enough money for the expenses that she typically pays according to our budget, things like groceries, her gas, etc., as well as her fun money. I did not leave her without access to any money. I went home and told her what I'd done. She's accusing me of financially abusing her. I pointed out that she's the one that abused my trust, not the other way around. She said that if that was the case, she should just leave. I told her to leave then because I wasn't going to give her the opportunity to steal from me again when it's clear she isn't even sorry for what she did. She left to stay with her sister. Did I take it too far though? Am I the idiot? So she's gone to stay with her sister, the one who's broke. So now there's another mouth to feed in that house and she's going to essentially be the sole provider for that household out of her own money. I think she'll be back. The question is whether OP will want her back. Betrayal is exactly the word. OP made a reasonable suggestion for the amount of financial help they could offer her sister's family, but that wasn't good enough. She stole from the person she is supposed to be in love with, who has supported her financially for the duration of the marriage, and then even had the nerve to claim financial abuse when OP moved to protect his hard-earned assets. He is definitely not the idiot. Not to mention the audacity to tell OP, "You forced me to go behind your back." Nope, nobody has forced her to do anything. She's forcing a stupid excuse out of her mouth, but that's it. OP, your wife is being an unreasonable mooch. She stole from you. No excuse. Your marriage is doomed. Yes, this is what really struck me. If he had said no unilaterally to helping the sister, it could almost justify the wife taking money and giving it out. Almost. It's still a huge trust issue and I think she would still be in the wrong, but he did offer to help. She, just for whatever reason, didn't think it was enough. I wonder why she feels giving money to her sister trumps her relationship with her husband. Savior complex, maybe? She wants to be the hero for bailing out her sister? I hope OP and his wife can work it out, but really this is a huge breach of trust. Update. Am I the idiot for taking away my wife's access to our money? Well, it looks like the posters that commented that my marriage is doomed were correct. First, I contacted my bank and I found that the account could be changed so that while both of us could deposit money, but it would take both our signatures to take the money out of the account. This would give her the same control over the accounts that I had by putting them under my name. I contacted Ashley to let her know that I would put the money back in the joint account if we switched the account to require both of our signatures. She said no, that just showed that I didn't trust her. I told her I didn't. She'd taken money without my consent. Of course I didn't trust her. She refuses to change the account. I refuse to give her unrestricted access. So right now, I'm still the only one with access to the money. We also tried marriage counseling. The counselor asked both of us to say what we thought was wrong with our relationship. Ashley said that I had abused her by taking away her access to money. I said that Ashley had broken my trust by giving away money without my consent. It took a few sessions, but it became pretty clear that we just weren't going to see things the same way. I wasn't going to commit to supporting her sister's family, and she refused to see giving them money without my consent as a breach of trust. The kicker came when it got to be close to the end of the month, and Ashley demanded, not asked, demanded, that I put $3,000 in the account for her to use to pay her sister's bills. Her reasoning was since she stayed there, we owed it to them. I told her she was ridiculous and that if I wouldn't do that while we were together, why in the world would I do it now? She walked out of the session and told me that she wouldn't continue counselling until I agreed. I contacted a lawyer and filed for a legal separation and will be filing for divorce. I found that I am legally obligated to pay usual and ordinary bills of the household, but I'm not required to pay any bills for where she moved to since she left voluntarily. So I am doing what I'm required to, including things like paying for her car insurance and her cell phone, but I'm not giving her access to any other funds. She's asked, more like demanded, I give her money as she will be getting it when we divorce, but I don't have a way of making sure whatever she is given comes out of the final settlement, so I am refusing. Thanks for the update. Definitely sounds like separation for the best. The fact that after she gave away money and couldn't see that it was a breach of trust to begin with makes me think she'd not think twice over doing it again. I'd be so livid if this had happened to me and would probably have done the same as you. Sorry to hear that. Listen to your lawyer. Block her phone number, her sister's too. Keep all communication from her between her and your lawyer. If that's not possible, only communicate with her by email so everything is written down. Be prepared for her to melt down once the divorce papers are in her hands. Ask your lawyer about how to protect yourself if her behaviour escalates. OP's wife blew up her own comfy life for what exactly? What an idiot! Meanwhile, sister-in-law is sitting back, rubbing her hands together, waiting for the divorce payout money she'll convince her sister to hand over to her. Be strong in your position because I give it a few weeks for the realization to hit both your wife and her sister that you won't pay. Your wife will realize she will have to get a job and needs to stay somewhere. Her sister will realize that she won't have access to your money, doesn't have any of her own, and will soon find a reason to kick her out. And your wife will come crawling back saying she made a mistake. Don't take her back. So I recently got together with a guy from my hobby. He asked me out first, and I had some doubts that we'd work together as a couple because of the age difference. He's 35 and I'm 22. So in my apartment, since it's an old house that was originally a single-family house, there isn't much soundproofing, and the floors creak when people move. I've gotten used to the sound of the guy upstairs getting up at 4 a.m. since he starts work at 5, and the sounds of the girls in the apartments on either side of mine watching telenovelas till midnight, taking work calls all day and having friends over on weekend nights. I know when I play music or have friends over, some of the sound leaks through the walls, so I'd never get upset about hearing my neighbours because it goes both ways. So when my boyfriend started coming over more often, he had complaints about the neighbours, which put me in an awkward place. He wanted to go speak to them or have me text them, and I said no. For example, one of the early times he stayed over, we went to bed around 10. He wanted me to ask my neighbour to turn down her TV. I said she didn't have it that loud and she turns it off at midnight anyway. At 4 a.m. he got very irritated with my upstairs neighbour getting up and cooking breakfast. I said that he'd be done by 5 because that's when his shift starts. At 7 a.m. he was still trying to sleep in and the neighbour on the other side had some work calls that he said he couldn't sleep through. I offered him earplugs and he said he couldn't sleep with them in either. He wanted me to ask her to quiet down. He had similar comments every time he heard someone else in the building, just living their life, especially if it was when he was in bed. I got frustrated with my boyfriend and told him, you can't expect to date a hot young 22-year-old and not want to deal with a 22-year-old's living situation. I don't know if you realise, but this is a normal apartment for someone my age. Heck, my neighbours are pretty great. Nobody's throwing loud parties on work nights, nobody's having screaming fights, nobody's having babies. He got irritated and asked why I was bringing age into it, and I said it's because he can't both want someone so young and also want someone with house kind of money. And he was being so out of touch with how normal people in their 20s live. He got really irritated with me bringing age into it, and even more annoyed when I'd respond to his neighbour complaints in the future with, "Okay, boomer," or tell him that if he wanted me to have a rich person apartment, he could pay for it. Am I the idiot for what I said to my boyfriend about my apartment? Edit. We can't stay at his house. It's not possible for me to get to his house on my own because I don't have a car. So that would mean him driving 30 minutes from his house in the suburbs to pick me up, then an extra 30 to drive me to his house, then an hour round trip early in the morning to get me home in time for work. It's a lot easier for him to visit me in the city. Not the idiot. Do you know why a 35-year-old dates a 22-year-old? Because women his age don't put up with his childish behaviour, but a 22-year-old is more likely to be easily guilt-tripped. Good on you for standing up for yourself. Honestly, you might have a common hobby, but you're in very different places in your life, which can make a relationship difficult if you're not both ready to be understanding. Not the idiot, but I have to ask, have you ever been to his house? I could be wrong, but the whole setup sounds like a huge red flag. Older guy, younger girl, has a house but makes up some reason why we shouldn't go there. I didn't want to jump straight to OP being the other woman, but that's exactly what I thought too. Like, does he have a wife? A good night's sleep is definitely worth the 30-minute drive if he's that picky, and it's weird he wants to try to handle her neighbours, which can make things difficult for her and seems like more hassle. My guy and I started out 45 minutes apart, then he travelled for a living for 5 years. He could pick her up. Betting wifey won't like it. Update. I googled his property records for his house and he co-owns it with the woman who shares his last name. Holy crap. I don't know if she's his wife or ex-wife or what, but I'm out of here. I'm honestly freaking out right now, but I just got to say, great big thank you to everyone who noticed red flags and made me question that. I, 45 female, and my husband Jack, 49 male, have 4 children, Tom, 20, Sarah, 18, and 2 kids, Valerie and Cole. The older 2 children are biologically my cousin's brother's kids. Him and his wife unfortunately passed away when the kids were just babies. None of the other family members were able or wanted to take in the children. I was the youngest and still in med school then, but my husband was financially stable. He was extremely fond of Tom. Sarah had just been born, so he suggested we become legal guardians for the time being. It was the best decision of my life. Last week at a family get-together, Sarah announced that she got a full scholarship to her dream university. My cousin's sister pulled me aside to tell me that my niece was 18 and had gotten accepted into the same university as Sarah. I congratulated her, but then she said to transfer Sarah and Tom's, he got a scholarship as well, college fund to her account to pay for niece's tuition and living expenses as the university was out of state. I thought she was joking and laughed in her face, but she glared at me and told me that since I was going to pay for Tom and Sarah, I have to pay for her daughter as well because both are my nieces. I said Tom and Sarah were mine and Jack's children, we formally adopted them. She said since Tom, Sarah and my niece are first cousins, she's a sibling of my late cousin's brother, they are the same and my children don't need it anyway. I was extremely annoyed at this point and said even so it was still their money and for them to do as they please. She left it at that and I thought it was over, but today she called me saying she was willing to forgive my appalling behaviour if I paid for my niece's tuition and living expenses as an apology gift. I told her she was out of her mind and hung up. After cooling down a bit, I thought maybe I should just suck it up and pay it to keep the peace, and was talking with my husband about it and he told me I am not obligated to help and it should be my decision. I finally decided not to. Now family members are calling me an idiot because I broke my niece's dreams over some grudge. It's not that I hate her, but her behaviour towards my children and family has never been the best, and my niece has never tried to reach out or bond with my kids, instead has sometimes belittled them, but that is another story. All relatives know this, so they think that is the reason, and well, that is a part of it. So, am I the idiot for not paying for my niece's college even though I can? Edit. In my culture, first and second cousins are given the same importance as siblings, and hence we grow up calling them as a cousin, brother or sister. My late cousin brother and the cousin sister in question were siblings. I am their first cousin. Not the idiot. They are your children, not your nieces. Blood relations don't matter here, and your cousin sister suggesting otherwise is vile. She's responsible to come up with a college fund for her kids. As you've realised, it would be punishing them for doing great enough to get scholarships to just give the money you save for them away. She should ask for your forgiveness, not the other way around. She's out of her mind here. Why would anyone think you are obligated to finance your niece's education? That's ridiculous. You don't owe her anything. If you wanted to help, great, but you have no obligation to. None whatsoever. Your cousin sounds extremely entitled and greedy. Also, don't cave in and don't pay now to keep the peace. It's such a nonsense idea here. It will just open the door for more begging and entitlement. And the whole idea that niece's dreams are ruined is only true if the cousin has been telling her daughter that OP would be paying. She's been planning for years to somehow manipulate OP into it without ever asking. OP has zero obligation here. Next will be, niece deserves as nice a wedding as your children. Niece deserves a honeymoon of her dreams. Niece deserves a down payment for a new house. She's pregnant, you know. Once it starts, it will never end. Don't give niece a dime. My husband and I recently bought our first home and are expecting our first child, a baby girl, in September. My husband's grandmother has got to a point where she can't live on her own. She's not senile or anything, but she has mobility issues and can't drive, and there are no grocery stores who deliver near her. My father-in-law is an only child, and both my husband and my sister-in-law have moved out so they have the space. Here's the issue. Grandma is very misogynistic. She has a very blatant favoritism towards my husband compared to my sister-in-law, and my mother-in-law and her haven't seen each other in years due to her behavior, so she doesn't want her to move in with them. My father-in-law asked if Grandma could move in with us, but I'm very wary since I'm a stay-at-home mom and will be having a baby girl, and she's made some comments toward me already about how disappointing it is I'm not giving her a great-grandson, and how she doesn't think I need to be a stay-at-home mom and that women these days are lazy. My husband and I discussed it and we decided against it, but my father-in-law called us selfish and said now she'll have to go into a home since my mother-in-law won't let her live with them either. I do feel guilty, but at the same time I feel as if my concerns are valid. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Funny how your in-laws don't want grandmother there too, but they're not considered selfish. OP, caring for an elderly family member would be a full-time job on top of having a newborn to take care of. Even if Granny was sweet as peaches, it'd be a hard pass. I literally lolled myself off of the chair at that. She's too much of a problem for the mother-in-law, but they're mad someone else also realizes she's a nightmare. LOL, OP, I guarantee your life will suck having opinionated grandma there. Your poor daughter will always be made to feel less than. Grandma is now feeling the consequences of her horrid behavior. Visit her in her new home once in a while, but that's it. Father-in-law has known all along he was going to put Grandma in a home rather than have her live with him. He just wants someone to blame for it. I think this is the classic case of men deciding that it's the women's job to be caretakers for the elderly, and after all, it's not like you have a job. Sarcasm. Just no.